Oi, tokina maia, ei, ei, eka kikurum, opawariki, ekai ekero, epawariki, oi, tokina maia, ei, ei, eka kikurum, opawariki, ekai ekero. E pouariki oi, tokina maia, e, e, e ka kikurum, o pouariki, e kai e kero. E pouariki oi, tokina maia, e, e, e ka kikurum, opo ariki, e kai e kero.
Pokorong tering, pokorong tering. Ere mei ta imi, ere mei te motu. Ere mei ka rangata matua, ka chakat, ka chimarik, ka mokopu. Ere mei ko iariki, iariki. Ko tēnā ti, ko pau iariki. Ko hi mai rā i ka karaki o ka karapuna moriori o Rekohu. Ka rahi te mihi ki koto kato, no tata, no tiwhi etu, no te ao nui, te ao roa, te ao marama, hoko menetai, mero. Ko Kiwa Hammond ta ingo o tēnā ti jacket, tēnā kota. My name is Kiwa Hammond, and I have the privilege and the honour to be your presenter in this series, Pokorong Taring, and in particular, Po Iariki. This webinar series, Po Iariki, has been created to introduce, explain, and demonstrate the everyday use of some karaki moriori for those who are learning Tare Moriori, Moriori language, and are interested in Tikane Moriori, Moriori culture. These karaki have been sourced from the writings of record keepers of Moriori traditions and are now being brought to life verbally through recitation and discussion to further our understanding of our karapuna Moriori and to consider how we might apply them in the present and in the future. We would like to thank Te Mātāwai for its investment in the regeneration of Tare Moriori, as well as its ongoing support for Moriori language aspirations. For those of you who didn't join us last night in our first webinar, the name of this series, Po Iariki, is derived from an ancient canoe hauling chant. You would have heard it being recited as the opening soundtrack for this webinar. In an earlier series of webinars produced in 2021-2022, Po Ariki was explained and taught to participants. Here, the Po represents a pillar, much like the pillar that is behind me. And Iariki symbolizes leadership, because it takes great strength to take a stand and lead in the face of adversity, and to do so with peace in your heart. Ko hi mai rā I Po Iariki. In this session, we are focusing on a karaki called Hiti Mai. Please watch the following video and listen to this karaki being recited and explanations that follow, along with some practical uses of phrases contained in the karaki.
Hiti me, ko tami hitara, pupu o tara, ko tami hitara, Tarawa kamanu, ko tamihitara, ko karapuna. Ki tanga nei taha, ko karapuna. Ore ko huei.
Hioki me, hioki me, hioki mai kutu. Before we actually have a look at Hitimei, it is important to understand where it came from, because it is a recent, we'll call it a composition, and it is one that can be used in a variety of ways. As a karaki, as a rongo, or even as a karanga. The image that you can see on the screen at the moment is the repatriation of our karapuna. Our karapuna moriori ko Imi-Takit that were returned from the United Kingdom, in particular from the British Natural Museum of Natural History. Prior to this event, Moriori had been going through a whole range of events, a whole range of significant moments. And one of those moments was the signing of the deed of settlement on Rekohu at our marae kopinga. And we were led by our mahine, led by our women, and led in the form of karanga that was so unique, so uniquely Moriori, that it actually, I think for our maurahiri, for our visitors, some of them even stopped in their tracks, because what they experienced was not a karanga as we know as Māori, but the oro that resonated, that emanated from Repo. Following this event, discussions took place among our mahine around karanga. And if you look at this image, and you'll see some dashing looking fellow there in a suit holding up a toko. Behind him, you'll see a mahine who looks a little bit like a pirate. She's got a mask on, and that is Grace Legros. And Grace is a former trustee of Hokotehi Moriori Trust. And she came to me and we had a conversation. And she said, look, we have a big event coming. And as the repatriation of karapuna from England. And what she was asking was, can we put something together that helps our mahine in particular to be able to acknowledge shu karanga or acknowledge shu rongo and even karaki, the return of these ancestors. Long story short, the result was Hitimei. Now, in this particular image, I would like to acknowledge the gentleman that's sitting on the right-hand side of the picture, there in the white suit. I've got my little pointy thing, so you should be able to see him there. Maui Solomon, a former chair of Hokotehi Moriori Trust, who along with his mahine, Susan Thorpe, travelled to UK and carried out our tikane to bring our karapuna back to Te Papa, where this particular event was held. It was actually at that event that Hitimei, I guess you could say, got its premiere. It got its debut on a national stage. And what better place than at Te Papa? And at the time, it was just Grace and I, because it was something that came together. It was quite organic. And the morning of this particular event, when I stood to deliver kōrero on behalf of our Moriori people. It was one of the things that we led out with, was hiti mei. This is a picture from an event that took place last year. And this was the repatriation of tipuna Māori, Karapuna Moriori from Austria. These were the remains of ancestors who were taken by nefarious means by a person by the name of Reichek. And once again, we had some of our whanaunga who travelled along with the papa over to Austria to facilitate the return of these tipuna Māori. The group you see in the foreground are our relations from Te Tai Tokerau, Ngāpuhi, Te Tai Tokerau whānau. Because the majority of the tipuna that were returned were from there, as well as from Waikato, some from Whanganui, and around half a dozen or so Moriori. And so if you look at the back of the picture, there's our Moriori contingent back here. And if you can see the tall young fella at the back with the wild hair, looks a bit like Ruakinana. It must be his tūhoi side coming out. That's my son, Tara Whitiora. So this was an event where we went humble. And we actually had a conversation that morning around how do we carry ourselves? Because the previous time, Moriori were front and center. This time, because it really was the day for those other iwi. And so we just went humble as Moriori at the back as we carried our karapuna into the papa. And of course, as were previous times, the tipuna and the karapuna were laid on the stage there at the marae at the papa. And hiti mei was performed. It was recited. And this time, it wasn't just Grace and I. This time, there was around about, I guess, up to a dozen. So over time, we were trying to make sure that more and more of our whānau will be able to participate in using hiti mei. Be that as a karanga, be that as kariki, or be that as a rongo. And for those of you who aren't familiar with rongo in a Moriori sense, that is Moriori word for waiata. So let's have a look at hiti mei. Hiti mei, o tami hitara. Pupu o tara, o tami hitara. Tarawa ka manu, o tami hitara. Ko ka rā puna ki tanga neitaha. Ko ka rā puna o re kohu e. When hiti mei was composed, it was so that it could be used as a rongo. And for those of you who aren't familiar with rongo in a Moriori sense, that is our word for waiata. Or to be used as a karanga, even, by our mahine, by a woman. Or to be used even as a kariki, because it is actually based on ancient kariki, on ancient chants. Ones that acknowledge the importance of the sun and its connecting light between the living and the ancestors. It is simple in its wording and structure and easy to learn. You can use this at any time as a way of uplifting and bringing light into a situation. So it's not purely about the dead. Tamihitara was a central and very important entity to Moriori. As Māori, we refer to Tamanuitara, the sun. But a Moriori rendering of that name is Tamihitara. And if you've not heard that before, just say it to yourself, Tamihitara, Tamihitara. The rugged elements of the Southern Ocean meant that our karapuna had a deep appreciation and respect for the environment and every aspect of life and existence around Rekohu. Now we know that cultures around the world have worshipped the sun and its power to bring life as well as to bring death. This rongo, or as a rongo, and if you're not familiar with the word rongo in this respect, in Māori terms, that would be a waiata. This rongo, this karanga, is based on karaki that refer particularly to life and death. From dedication rites recited over children, setting them on their life pathways, through to comforting the dying by holding them to face the sun and feel the warmth of Tamihitara one last time. In Moriori traditions, like many narratives throughout the Pacific, an important figure is Maui. Maui, who is represented in many different forms and variations in terms of titles and themes. For Moriori, it is primarily Maui Mua, who is named and attributed for capturing the sun and slowing its journey across the sky. In our Māori traditions, we often refer to Maui Pōtiki or Maui Tikitiki a Taranga. For Moriori, for our karapuna, it was Maui Mua. So while Maui Mua is not named specifically in this karaki, his connection to Tamihitara is enduring. The impacts of the actions by Maui Mua upon Tamihitara, upon the world, they've been everlasting. So let's listen again to this karaki and identify key tukupa, words that help us understand the significance of this particular karaki.
Hiti me, ko Tamihitara, pupu o tara, ko Tamihitara, taraua kamanu, ko Tamihitara, ko karapuna, ki tanga nei taha, ko karapuna. O re kohu e i.
Tēnā koutou tahunu. Thank you for bearing with me as I navigate my way through this technology. So, as you can see from this particular this karaki, can also be performed as a rongo, as a waiata, can be used as in a number of different ways. And it refers to Tamihitara. In Māori terms, we often refer to Tamanuitara. And this karaki is one that is versatile. Now, it is actually sourced from ancient karaki and stories of our karapuna. But one of the things that we wanted to be able to do is to make those karaki accessible to all of you, to all of us, to our huno, to our chimarik, our children, to our mokopu, uh, our grandchildren and descendants, and basically to the imi. So even though it's quite short, there's a lot in there. There's a lot of kōrero in there. So we're just going to have a look at some of the terms in there and how actually we might be able to apply them in an everyday sense. Because the whole idea of these karaki is not just to perform them in a ceremonial way, but also to understand what are they really saying and how might we utilize them in our everyday life? How might we utilize them as expressions? And then how do we develop a deeper understanding of the words that are contained within? Now, this karaki can be used as a rongo or waiata or karanga, and it is based on karaki that acknowledge the importance of the sun and its connecting light between the living and the ancestors. It is simple in its wording and structure and easy to learn. You can use this at any time as a way of uplifting and bringing light into a situation. So even though in the description before we talked about how, in regards to death, this is a highly versatile karaki or rongo, or you use it in a way that feels right. Now, Tamihitara, the sun, was and still is a central and important entity to Moriori and, in fact, all cultures and peoples around the world. You know, the rugged elements of the Southern Ocean meant that our karapuna had a deep appreciation and a respect for the environment and every aspect of life and existence around Ekohu in particular. Cultures around the world have worshipped the sun and its power to bring life and death. This rongo and karanga is based on karaki referring particularly to life and death from dedication rites performed over children, setting them on their life pathways, through to comforting the dying by holding them to face the sun and feel the warmth of Tamihitara one last time. In Moriori traditions, like many narratives throughout the Pacific, an important figure is Maui. Maui, who is represented in many different forms and variations in terms of his titles and his deeds. For Moriori, it is primarily Maui Mua, who is named and attributed for capturing the sun and slowing its journey across the sky. This differs to our Māori narratives where we talk about Maui Tiki Tiki a Taranga or Maui Pōtiki. As I said before, for Moriori, it is Maui Mua. While Maui Mua is not named specifically in this karaki, in this rongo, in this karanga, his connection to Tamihitara is enduring. The impacts of the actions by Maui Mua upon Tamihitara have been everlasting. So let's have a look at this karaki and identify key tukupa. Tukupa means words. They help us to understand the significance of this karaki. There are some really useful phrases in here. Unu. And one of those is hiti me, hiti me. So hiti is a Moriori rendering of the word piti. So those of us we're familiar with haka such as kamate, and where it says talks about the sun shining on the person. Yeah, whiti mai te rā. Hiti me is a Moriori way of saying the same thing. Hiti me, hiti me. So here are just some general interpretations of what that can mean. Yeah. Shine forth, very classic, very proper there. Shine on me, shine on us. Shed some light. This might be something that you'd say to somebody if they said something and you go, I don't quite understand what you're saying there. Hiti me, hiti me. Yeah. Enlighten me. Help me understand. Hiti me, hiti me. So this isn't just, these aren't just kariki, I shouldn't say just, but as kariki or as rongo or as a form of karanga, there is a variety of ways that we can use different parts of it as phrases in our everyday conversations. If somebody says something that you don't understand, hiti me, enlighten me, help me understand, shed some light, explain please, hiti me, I'm not quite getting you, or show me the way. Hiti me, show me the pathway, show me the way. So it's just something to have a think about and have a bit of a play with. So, hiti me. Feel free to repeat it to yourselves as we're going through these exercises. So, hiti me. Help me understand. Enlighten me. Another way of saying that is pupu o tara. So have a go at that. Pupu o tara. Pupu o tara. Oh, enlightening. Oh, exciting. Pupu o tara refers to daybreak, to daylight. So once again, and actually, I'm looking at on the screen that I can see Argyle. Kia oranga Argyle. And if you look at the backdrop behind Argyle, there's this big bright star. Now, you could say that's actually Tamihitara, even though it looks like it's more of a star. And that's an example of Pupu Otara, something that is bright and exciting. Or where you might be going, oh, Pupu Otara, it's enlightening. So there you go. Doing it already, Argyle. Okay. Let's have a look at some other terms that appear in this particular this karaki, this rongo, this karanga. Taraua. Taraua ka manu. Taraua ka manu. So taraua is another word for to sing. I've not come across a similar word in te reo Māori, but taraua means to sing. So in this instance, taraua ka manu, the birds sing. So you could actually take that and adapt it to refer to a group of people, for example. So I've just given some little examples there. Taraua ka chibarik. Taraua ka chibarik, which is referring to children. Children singing. Children sing. Taraua ka chibarik. Taraua ka rangata matua. Taraua ka rangata matua. Elders, talking about elders singing. Or if you're just referring to a general group of people, tarawa ka chakat. Tarawa ka chakat. For those of you who weren't able to join us last night in the first webinar in this series, if you're having if you're having some challenges with these particular words where you see the TCH at the beginning, I'm just going to give you the same piece of advice as what I said to our huna last night. Take your tongue and stick it behind your top row of teeth like this and press it against it and go chimmerik, chimmerik, chuck it, chuck it. Don't go chuck it, as in, chucking something out the window. Okay, we're not chucking out, anything. It's chuck it, right? Chuck it. So it's something that just takes a little bit of practice. So, tarawa ka banu, tarawa ka timarik, tarawa ka rangata matua, tarawa ka chuck it. Have a go. Just try it. Play with it. Now, if you look on the right-hand side of the screen, and one of the other lines that comes from this particular, from this karaki, from this rongo, ko kara puna ki tanga nei taha. Ko kara puna ki tanga nei taha. Yeah. Feel free to just say it to yourselves, ko kara puna ki tanga nei taha. So, karapuna. Karapuna, ancestors. In Māori, we use words like tipuna, tipuna. Moriori, we use karapuna, mostly. Now, here's a term that is I think is quite unique to Tare and Moriori. And that is tangane. Tangane. Tangane means like my. We have a variety of words in Tare and Moriori, but this is quite a unique one, tangane. And I think it's a word that really harks back to our Polynesian origins. Tangane, my. And of course, you have the word taha, which is also used in Te Reo Māori. So, ko karapuna ki tangane taha. So it's talking about the ancestors being at my side. Ko karapuna o re kohue. So once again, we're talking about the ancestors from where? From Rekohu. So let's have a look again at Itime and go through it together. So what I'll do is that first thing I'll talk it through, listen along, and if you want to speak along at the same time, please do so. And then we'll go through it, or I'll go through it as it is performed in that video. So here we go. So let's just say it all together. Hitime. Hitime. Otami hitara. Very deliberate. Okay, very deliberate in the way that we say it. Hitime. Hitime. Otami hitara. So we separate out the sound. It's a bit different to Te Reo Māori. And as a fluent Māori speaker, it's actually quite challenging to not say this as Māori. Because Māori, we want to flow things through together. Whereas our karapuna moriori, when you consider the elements, when you consider the conditions that they existed in, and those are conditions that are still there on Rekohu. For those who've been there, lived there, you know what I mean. When that wind comes along and it whips those words out of your mouth. So the language was very much shaped by the environment and the elements around it. So once again, hitime. hiti me. Ko tami hitara. Pupu o tara. Pupu o tara. When you say this, really go pupu o tara. Like it says here, a really wondrous thing. Because it's a burst of sunshine. Pupu o tara. And where's it come from? O tami hitara. Okay. Put a bit of action into it. Who know? Pupu o tara. Put your hands on there. Pupu o tara. O tami hitara. So let's try from the top again. Hiti me, o tami hitara. Pupu o tara, o tami hitara. The next line. Taraua ka manu, o tami hitara. Tarau is a really interesting word because it's a Moriori term for singing, like a chorus of birds. Taraua ka manu, o tami hitara. And for those of you who are seeing ka like that for the very first time and wondering, what is that? That is a Moriori way of saying the, plural. So in Te Reo Māori, we say ngā. In Tare Moriori, ka, taraua, ka manu. Those of you who have Ngaitahu descent, you will know what I mean, because this is also a feature of reo of Ngaitahu, or should I say Kaitahu, where the nga is sometimes replaced with a k. This also happens in Tare Moriori. Taraua ka manu, o tami hitara. Ko kara puna ki tanga nei taha. Ko kara puna ki tanga nei taha. So there's that word again, kara puna. And tanga nei, talking about the ancestors up beside me. Ko kara puna o re kohu e. So let's say it all together. Try and do it in one go. Okay. Hiti me, o tami hitara. Pupu o tara, o tami hitara. Taraua ka manu, tami hitara. Ko kara puna ki tanga nei taha. Ko kara puna o re kohu e. I think one of the really important things with a karaki like this, and like just what we're doing before, is sometimes you've got to channel somebody, and we are channeling our karapuna. But if you're having problems trying to channel the karapuna, just think of Gandalf. Just think of Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. You know what I mean. Because there's a lot of expression, there's a lot of feeling. And there's a lot of not just verbal expression, but also the physical expression. Pupu o tara. It may be, it's a really useful term. It's like, how amazing, how wonderful. Pupu o tara. Okay. Or how enlightening. So think of it as a term that you can use in a variety of ways. Okay. So let's go through it again. And we'll do it. I'll actually do it as was shown in the video here. In the video that was a few kilograms ago. So, and just have a listen and join in. We'll go through it a few times. Okay. Hiti me, o tami hitara, pupu atara, tami hitara, tara waka manu. Tamihitara ko kara puna. Ki tanga nei taha ko kara puna. O e kohu e i. All right, you got a feel for it? Okay. Let's try it again, shall we? Okay. Hiti me. Tamihitara pupuatara. Tamihitara tara wakamanu. Tamihitara okara puna. I tanga nei taha okara puna. O re kohu e. This time, use your hands. Use your body. Have some fun with this. Because these aren't just words, it's about the whole self. So, have you ever wondered why our karapuna, when you look at the rako momori, and even when you look at the screen right now and you can see an image, granted it is the Hokotehi Moriori Trust icon, symbol, tohu, but look at it and see how the hands are out here like this. So ask ourselves the question, why did our karapuna choose to represent their karapuna in this way? Because it seems to be a consistent thing that on the rako momori, that these figures often have their hands out like this. Could it be because of tamihitara, because of the sun? Imagine that your hands are like solar panels. And this is not a concept that is unique to Moriori. Other cultures, especially those cultures in places where, actually in most cultures where the sun has a huge influence on life and death. But I'd say on Rekohu and places like Rangihaute in particular, the sun was important. Because if the sun came up, then life continued, regardless of what was going on around you. So, how about we do this? Let's go through this together, go through the words, and use your hands. But Tamihitara is up here, is in the sky. It's the sun. Yes, our people were sun worshippers. And I'm not talking about the suntan and bikini fashion. Okay? They were sun worshippers because the sun, the light, it brought life. Okay, so, let it go. Let it go. Express yourself. And pupuatara, be excited. Be excited about it because, it's a burst of sunshine. It's tamihitara. And taraua kamanu, the birds are singing. There's a chorus of birds. Rekohu is not the same as what it was over 200 years ago, when there was an abundance of bird life. What we see now and what we feel and experience now on Rekohu is so different to what the karapuna, what they lived 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago. And so imagine that chorus of birds that are greeting Tamihitara, they're greeting the sun as it comes over the horizon. And while we're doing this, the karapuna, they're with us. Ko karapuna ki tanga nei taha. You may or may not be able to see them, but they're here. And they are the karapuna of Rekohu. And Rekohu and all the surrounding motu, all the surrounding islands. Okay, so let's try this together. Have some fun with this. Really put your body into it. Okay. So, In fact, put your hands up like this. Make like a karapuna. Make like a karapuna. Make like a rako momori. Put your hands out there. Because these are our solar panels. These are also our transmitters. The transmission of light and energy into our bodies is filling us up, giving us life, and giving us the ability to acknowledge not just the sun, but the world and the karapuna and all those things that give life, with all those things that we are dependent on. Okay, so let's go through it. Hiti me, tami hitara, pupu atara, tami hitara, tara wakamanu, tami hitara, okara puna, ki tanga nei taha, okara puna, o e kohu e i hoko mene tai me rongo. Okay. Now's an opportunity, Huna, for any questions that you might have. Please feel free if you haven't done so already. Oh, I see there's quite a bit in the chat. So I'm just going to just quickly check through and see how we're going there. All right. And on our webinar today, we have support from Zach Stark and also my daughter, Rahi Makuni, who some of you know already. And so if I miss anything, Rahi Makuni, please point it out to me. And you'll see in the chat that actually quite a bit of information has been put in there in regard to the repatriations, other things that are related. Maybe some of the terms that I've used are new to some of you. And so have a look in the chat if you're not too sure. What we want to make sure is that people understand the tukupa that we're using, the words, and have a deeper understanding and appreciation of Tare Moriori, and in particular, these kariki. But if you have any questions, please put them in the chat now. Oh, trust Ricky Happy to ask that question. With tangane being an ownership word, does that translate to tangana or tangara being the other common? I think is there a word missing from the rest of what you said there, Ricky? With other common words. It's a good question. It's a really good question. It's one of those things from a linguistic viewpoint that would make sense, because those are common features that we see in Te Reo Māori, i.e. we say tēnei, tēnā, tērā. Similar thing. In Tare Moriori, we have words like, instead of tēnei, we have tēneti. Now, tēneti doesn't mean tent. In Moriori, tēneti is another way of saying tēnei, but we also use tēnei. I think it's one of those things that it would make sense and does warrant some more investigation as we reclaim and as we regenerate Tare Moriori. One of the things that we're looking to do going forward from here at Te Hunu is to be able to produce some more comprehensive guides to Tare Moriori based on the scant information that we have. Now, please understand and please trust, we're not just making stuff up. We're having a good look at what has been left to us by the karapuna, and in particular looking at various archives and the stories and the narratives that were collected by people such as Hirawana Tapu and recorded by Alexander Shand and others, Dayton and others. We're looking at those and trying to develop a better understanding of Moriori language structure. So we're not going to, don't want to get too technical about it right now. I don't want to get too much in your faces, being a linguist and so on, tahuno. But know that those things are coming. And that what we're trying to do now is to basically provide tools that are going to be useful every day. There's a really good comment there from Levi. This is a good karaki to start the day, welcoming the coming day and remembering karapuna. Absolutely, absolutely. Our karapuna, for want of a better description, they worshipped the sun. But you see that in a lot of cultures and peoples around the world. I guess the ones who are most referred to for that is the Egyptians, the Mayans, many cultures where they held the sun in the highest regard because I think they understood the power of tamihitara, the power to give life, and also the power to take life away. So it is that's a good point there, Levi. So thank you. Now, I just go check and see, Tahuno, are there any other questions? Just mindful that we're going on 8 o'clock now. So the whole idea of these webinars is that we go for about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. We've gone a little bit longer, but that's because I love you. That's because that's my iaroha kikoto. Iaroha kikoto. That's my love for you, the people. Oh, how cheesy. Anyway, those who are experiencing Kiwa for the very first time, you got to get this. So, oh yes, and you will see in the chat there, Rahiri Makwini, my daughter, has just been putting little terms in the chat just to help people understand when I'm using terms. Iaroha. So that's a Moriori rendering of the word aroha, love, compassion, and so on. So I'll just check and see if there's any last questions or comments, because we're just mindful that, especially on Rekohu, it's a little bit later there, about 40, you guys are 45 minutes ahead of the rest of us, those of us who are here in Aotearoa. And so it means that you're ahead of the rest of the world. That's how I like to see it. Rekohu is leading the world. Look, if there's no more questions and anything like that, I'm just going to move us along here. So, e mihi ki koutou, e mihi ki tātou. Just acknowledgement to you and actually to all of us. And acknowledgements to Hokotehi Moriori Trust and of course Kopinga Marae there on the Rekohu. Te Mātāwai, the agency that has provided the funding, language revitalization funding. So kamihi ki koutou, te Mātāwai. Te Paipai Pūtaiao, te wharewana o tākou, who actually helped us with some of the filming and just bringing some of the elements of this webinar together. And of course, there's us doing our thing. We're Aotea Solutions and Project Rangatahi. And so though I'm the face that's at the front, in the background, we have Zach Stark and my daughter, Rahiri Makwini Edwards-Hammond, who some of you have met before. And before we finish up, here's for those of you who haven't seen this karaki before, we'll go through it. But we hope that you have enjoyed our webinar today in this series of Yariki. Please join us for upcoming events, or feel free to rewatch this episode once it's posted online, and the others that are going to be in the series. Once again, we thank the Mātāwai for its support, and we wish to acknowledge all who have been and continue to be part of this journey. It's only right that we finish this session with this karaki to refocus our thoughts on important things in our lives, such as our huno, our family, and kain, our homes. So, if you'd like to just put your hands out there like this, because we talked about You know, acknowledging the sun. This time we're going to acknowledge the elements. Tau mu wai rung, tau mu wai raro, tau mu wai roto, tau mu wai waho, haurongo, haurongo, hoko menetai, mero. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a fantastic night. And just remember that the next webinar, hot on the heels of this one, is tomorrow night. Okay, so we'll see you, same bad time, same bad channel. Mero.
E pou ariki oi, toki nā mai e, e, e ka kikurung, o pou ariki e kai e kero. E pou ariki oi, toki nā mai e, e, e ka kikurung, o pou ariki e kai e kero.